We're in 2 Timothy chapter 4, uh, verse 4, where Paul writes, they will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths. And I closed last time with a tirade, and I know that it sounds like I'm anti-science. I'm not anti-science. I am, and now I don't. You can take this politically if you want to, but I don't mean it necessarily politically. I'm talking about culturally now. I am anti-woke science, which in my opinion has to do with science that is construed rather than discovered through experimentation. I could go on and on about that, but it really comes down to you can. When I was in grad school, I had a statistics class. It was the one class I feared because I am horrible at mathematics, and so much of statistics, well, virtually all of it has to do with math. But one of the things I discovered in my statistics class is that if you construct a statistical analysis in some particular ways, you can make it say whatever you want it to say. Because numbers, people say, well, the numbers don't lie. Well, no, the numbers don't, but the people who arrange the numbers often do. You can get whatever you want out of your study if you construct it so that it will achieve these, desired outcomes. Okay, so, man, I'm so full of it today. I closed off by saying, although I don't necessarily blame Charles Darwin, I look at the cultural and anthropological processes that have come out of a nearly universal acceptance of his theories of selection, survival of the fittest, evolution, and much of what we have today is what I consider to be a predictable outcome of the perhaps unintended consequences of Darwin's theory of evolution. Here's why: because by now evolution is widely accepted as truth. It's generally taught as not a theory, but as the truth. The problem with that particular theory being accepted as truth is that it can't be tested. If there's a theory that cannot be tested, how do you prove it to no longer be a theory but a fact? You can't. Here's the deal. If the kind of evolution that secular evolutionists, strict evolutionists teach, and that's the kind of evolution that's being taught in our universities and high schools, junior high, middle schools, and even in grade school as the primary foundational concept of modern science, well, you have to go back, not thousands of years, not even hundreds of thousands of years, but millions of years. And oh, by the way, there are no records then. Now, macroevolution says one species became another species. Microevolution says within species there have been lots of changes, and the word evolution is really just a another word for change. Well, yeah, look at dogs and cats. We got lots of different kinds of dogs and cats but see, cats don't become dogs. Dogs don't become horses. It stays within the species, okay? I'm not against that. I mean, I look at that and I think, well, yeah, you've got, I mean, in the plant world, in the animal world, you can see it. Okay. Here's the deal with secular classical evolution is it philosophically is connected to, at its heart, to the idea that there was no creator, that these changes, the evolution of species becoming other species, those all happen by chance over time. Okay? Maybe. Except you do realize that we have no fossil evidence of any of those leaps from one species to the next. That information doesn't exist. But these stricter evolutionists say, well, it's just because we haven't found them yet. Well, there's a real possibility you haven't found them yet because they're not there. Okay, now I'm going to get off my high horse, but not quite. Why does that matter to me? I mean, it's just like biology. Oh, no, it's not just like biology. By now, this idea of an evolutionary concept and philosophy which makes a God not only unnecessary but irrational runs all the way through sociology, anthropology, psychology. You have a system of understanding human behavior and human history that has no room for a sovereign God. If you take a sovereign God out of the equation, you take God out of the picture, one of the things that you're going to take out of it is a transcendent morality. Because then it's all about, morality becomes equal with social convenience, meaning it seems like this would be best. Well, if that's the basis of our view of morality, pretty much anything goes, because there's no objective, transcendent a source for that kind of morality. It's all about what do I think and what do I want. All right. How did I get here from they will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths? Well, it's because of my bias. My bias is that the kind of myth that Paul is talking about here is not the literary sense of myth, is narrative that carries the message of an interpretation of truth. Paul's talking about myth that was built on superstition, lack of education, and the need for some kind of God, but not the one true God. All right. We're kind of there again, culturally. God is the idea of God, let alone the need for God, has been marginalized in our culture. You can throw a rock in any direction and hit something that has to do with how God has been and is being marginalized in our culture. I am politically conservative. You're probably going to be able to hear what I say and think, well, he's probably a conspiracy theorist. But you can think that. I believe I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I believe I'm a realist. I study history. I also study scripture. And funny thing, they overlap. They don't conflict. Okay. Got it off my chest. I owe you for enduring that. And so thanks. Okay. Then Paul changes gears, and I work from the New International Version, and there is no paragraph here, but I think there could be, because he doesn't quite change the subject, but he now turns the coin over, because there are people who they're going to acquire. They're listening to preachers who will, or teachers who will teach what their itching ears want to hear. That idea. They turn their ears away from the truth, and they turn aside to myths. Okay, that's the one side of the coin. Here's the other side. Verse 5. But you keep your head in all situations, endure hardship, do the work of an evangelist, discharge all the duties of your ministry. This is, don't forget the context. Paul's not just tossing out philosophical and theological principles. He is writing a personal letter to Timothy, his son in the faith, a guy he loves. And in fact, to the degree that he calls him his son in the faith, who he has designated and left in Ephesus to lead the church. So he's all of this that I've applied to our current cultural situation. Paul was specifically talking about to Timothy with regard to what was happening in the Greco-Roman world of century 1 in Ephesus. So now we come back to Timothy. This is for you, where he says, but you, and I think we can almost put in parentheses, but you, Timothy, keep your head in all situations. This, I told you, we're getting a job description for ministry here, for effective and faithful ministry. And here it is again. This is, there are bullet points of job description, and then there are things that can help a person whose job this is to execute on those bullet points. This isn't just good advice. This is life-giving data, okay? Keep your head in all situations. This is true for all of us. But I can tell you, having been, I only did it for 45 years, but, and honestly, there are days that I think, man, I wish I was back in church ministry. My ministry has changed, and now it's only connected to the church world because I'm a pastoral counselor, a biblical counselor. But my ministry has changed. The focus, the context of my ministry has changed, and I regret that sometimes. But this is instruction for ministers, and from my experience in ministry, keeping your head in all situations is not easy in ministry. But I can tell you, when a minister, pastor, teacher, preacher keeps their head in all situations, one of the outcomes of that is there is far less confusion and conflict. I'm going to stop here. We'll pick it up again next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.